Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Sunday at Home. Sunday at Home is a ministry of Mount Hamilton Baptist Church here in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And Sunday at Home is actually intended for you when you can't make it out to church. Sometimes we're busy, we have a late night, maybe we work nights or our children are up in the night and getting to church just isn't happening. However, it's also intended for anyone who would like to join this service that is our ministry that goes far beyond the people in our own church who are unable to come. My name's Lesley and I'm one of the pastors here at Mount Hamilton, and I'm really glad to welcome you here today. Special news today is that we have Stephanie Willett, who is our next generation pastor, who is going to be preaching for us today. Stephanie has been with Mount Hamilton for some time now, and Stephanie does a wonderful job with our children and our teens. And we're super glad to have her here today, bringing our value that we cherish the next generation to you. Also here today is Bruce, who is our producer back there.
Good morning.
And we're really glad to have Bruce, who faithfully serves in this ministry, with Jacob, our other producer, and they do such a beautiful job taking care of us and allowing this service to happen. So let's start this service by pausing for a moment, by turning our hearts toward God, by taking a breath and maybe slowing down. Maybe you're home right now and there's lots of activity around you. Or maybe you've had a really busy morning, or maybe you are joining us for worship at another time in the week and you've had a really busy day. Maybe there are things troubling you that are on your mind. This is our chance to just take a breath and slow down and remember that we're in God's presence regardless of our circumstances. So let's do this together. We'll take a pause, a chance. You may want to take a breath just to slow down a little bit as we turn our hearts toward God for this next period of time. God, we are grateful that we can come to you in so many different ways. We are grateful for technology that allows us to come together virtually, to worship, to get in your path, God, to focus our attention on you for a bit. God, I pray that you would meet each person where they are today, regardless of their circumstance. You know each of us, Lord, and you know the things that are on our hearts and our minds and happening in our lives. You know better than we do sometimes, Lord, what it is that you can do for us. And so I pray, God, that you would be with each person here. And I pray that you would move in our hearts, move in our minds, as we consider the songs of worship and as we consider Stephanie's message that we value the next generation. In Jesus' name, amen. Here's Chad.
Breaks the power of sin and darkness, whose love is mighty and so much stronger. The King of glory, the King above all kings. my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy, worthy, worthy. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing it like never before. Oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing it like never before. Oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. You're rich in love. You're rich in love, and you're slow to anger. Your name is great, and your heart is kind. For all your goodness, I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing it like never before. Oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. And on that day when my strength is failing, the end draws near and my time has come. Still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name.
Hi, everybody. My name is Stephanie Willett, and I am our Next Generation Director here at MHBC. And I'm going to be talking to you today about why our next generation matters. Before I start, I'd like to share some stats with you because stats are fun, right? So in 2013, a number of churches started to realize that they were losing a lot of their young adults and their youth. They realized that they were leaving the church, and some of them would come back, but a lot of them were not coming back to the church. So these churches worked with some organizations to do a research project to kind of figure out what was happening with this group. And they named this research project the Hemorrhaging Faith Project. Now, this is a really long report that was done, and I'm happy to share a link later if somebody would like. But for the purpose of this conversation, here are some of the 3 things that they found in this report. They found that this group was feeling a lack of authentic faith experiences. They were feeling that the acts of the people in that church, their churches, were different than the things that they were teaching. And they also felt that they had insufficient opportunities to engage in open discussion about their faith. So in other words, what these people were really saying they needed was that they needed authentic faith experiences. They wanted to be with a church where the people in the church were practicing what they were preaching. And they wanted more opportunities to have real authentic faith discussions with other people in their faith community. So all this is to say that creating a space for our children and our youth to share their faith experiences is vital for them to grow in their faith. And this requires a team approach, which I am going to dig a little bit more into. So before I share, we're going to look at Psalm 145, verse 4. Great is the Lord, and most worthy of praise. His greatness no one can fathom. One generation commends your works to another. They tell of your mighty acts. They speak of the glorious splendor of your majesty, and I will meditate on your wonderful works. They tell of the power of your awesome works, and I will proclaim your great deeds. They celebrate your abundant goodness and joyfully sing your righteousness. This scripture was taken from a psalm, and psalms are poems or songs that were written for the writer to share their feelings, their thoughts, and their prayers to God. A lot of psalms were written in the time of King David, who was the ruler of the Jewish nation thousands of years ago. Some people actually believe that King David wrote a number of these psalms, but we don't have that information really to know. So some interesting information about King David's time is that it was very uncommon for people to actually be literate. So not many people could read. In fact, it was thought that less than 3% of the population could actually read and write. So think of what the society would have been doing 3,000 years ago. Most of these people were blacksmiths or tradespersons or fishermen, or they lived on farms. And in those trades, they really didn't have a need to learn to read and write. So much so that they actually would hire scribes the odd time they did actually need something to be in writing. So to be a scribe was actually a career in itself. Learning how to read and write was almost like its own career. So there were some other times that literature was used, reading and writing was used, and some of those were government officials would take census and they would keep records of that. Royal families liked to have records of their history, so they always had lots of scribes around for that. And my favorite was the town crier. I don't know how many of you actually know what a town crier is, but this was a person who would have been literate, and he would be given a message from an official or whatever, and he would walk around and he would share the message with the town by just walking around and yelling it out. He wouldn't post it on a message board like we would today. He would just walk around and he would yell about it. And the reason why he did it was because most people didn't read. Most people didn't have a need for looking at a board. So this was the fastest and most effective way to get messages out. So instead of using written word for information, most people developed an oral tradition to share and to remember information. So how many of you remember your favorite song from high school? I don't mean like just remember what the song is. I mean like how many of you remember word for word what the songs were? Like you could stop what you're doing right now. Please don't, this is a hypothetical. You could stop what you're doing right now and sing all of the words of the song. So can you guess why? You probably know how to do that. A lot of people would listen to songs over and over. I remember when I was in high school, I would put a single song on repeat and I would listen to it over and over and over until I had every single word memorized. We don't need to talk about what album that was. That's a conversation for another day. But the point is, we would listen to something or hear something over and over and over again, and it would be committed to our memory. And that's how our ability to retain and memorize information works. You hear something over and over again, and then it sticks. Now today, we actually don't really need to use that information, that way of memorizing things anymore. Not really. We don't need to memorize phone numbers anymore like we did, even 20 years ago because we have cell phones. Everything is on speed dial. We don't need to remember the recipe because we can always go on the Google and we can find it. We don't need to remember how to do something. We can always just go on YouTube and get a tutorial. So we don't really use that ability to memorize things the way that we used to, let alone how they used to 3,000 years ago. This was the only thing that they had. They did not have the Google to rely on for memorizing things. So they had to memorize way more than we do today. Because they had to, they became incredibly good at it. They were way better than we probably ever were. So in this time, an elder, likely somebody who had the gift of storytelling, would share their stories. And as you can probably imagine, this was a very important job for their community. And the great part about sharing these stories is that they're actually sharing their faith experiences. They're handing those faith experiences down from generation to generation. It's a way of, they did this as a way to remember significant moments in their history and the greatness of the Lord. So when David said in the Psalms that, when it said in David's Psalms that one generation commends God's work to another generation, what he's really saying is that one generation is putting all of the history of our faith in the hands of the next generation. Pretty amazing, right? So let's fast forward about 1,000 years. We're going to talk about the time when Jesus came around on the scene and what it looked like to be a rabbi and to have an apprentice or a disciple. Now, a rabbi was a person that would interpret the Torah, which was the first 5 books of our Bible down. He would read his interpretations and he would teach them to others. This was a way for other people to learn God's laws. So if you were to become a student or a disciple of a rabbi, it would be to not just learn how he interprets the Bible, it would be to strive to be like the rabbi as much as possible and all of the things that he does in life. They would basically be the rabbi's shadow for, however long it took. The process of becoming a disciple was a very immersive relationship, and it was a huge selection process to become a rabbi's disciple. First, you would have to go through early education, And most people stopped at there. They would learn some of the books of the Bible, and they would be able to take that on with them, and then they would go back to help their families with whatever their work was. If you did go into something else, forward in this, you would be doing a specialized study, is what it would kind of equate to. So like something like a high school honors program. After that, you would move into a graduate program if you got that far. And once you completed this level of study and you were able to stand out in the crowd to a rabbi, you might just be able to get an invitation to be a disciple. And then finally, becoming a disciple would be like the equivalent of a master's student or an intern program. So this was a very long and selective process, and only a few people were actually invited to be disciples of their rabbis. So Jesus came on the scene, and he changed the narrative. Fun fact, most of Jesus' disciples were actually teens and young adults, or so it was believed. And Jesus chose his disciples from all walks of life. He chose fishermen, he chose tax collectors. It didn't matter where they were from. Jesus saw their potential. And when Jesus was teaching his yoke, or his interpretation of the Torah, he was teaching people how to love, how to have mercy, and of the fulfillment of prophecies. And when Jesus' disciples were ready to go teach, they weren't just given a student to mentor. They were sent out to all of the nations to mentor us all. And that was the start of something really amazing. Mentoring your next generation is so important. It's not going to look the same as it did in Jesus' time, because times are very different now than they were then. But here are some ways that we can all mentor the youth in our community. Small groups. Have a group of kids or teens connect with an older mentor who can encourage and walk with them in their faith. It would be amazing if we could have each of our youth that are in middle school and high school have a mentor walk alongside them through these times, because they are really, really trying times. Probably the most trying of their lives, at least until they get to adulthood and things change. Now, if this is something that you are interested in doing, we do have policies around meeting with children and youth, so please come and talk to me. Send me a message, however you would like to do that, and we can figure something out. All ages get-togethers. We are actually really good at doing this as a church. I feel like we're pretty good at this. Have get-togethers that anyone from kids to seniors can join. So when we did our Minute to Win It night, we recently did games night. In December, we did a fundraiser where everybody was involved and invited. Celebrating their talents is another way that we can show their value. So let kids and teens share their gifts, whether it's singing or leading or helping in a church project. Help them identify what their gifts are and help them to grow in what those gifts are, because those are gifts given by God, and it's our job to help them grow into the person that we want them to be. So some of you might know, this past weekend, I attended a junior high retreat called Avalanche with a number of our juniors. So I wasn't at church last weekend. And usually I do like a walk around. I make sure everybody has everything that they need before Sunday school starts, make sure all the teachers are there. And this Sunday I was not there to do that. And I mean, when I'm not there, I make sure that we have a plan B. There's always a plan B. It sounds like anything that could happen this Sunday happened. Like we needed a plan C, a plan D, maybe even a plan E. But friends, I can't tell you, like this, it never happens. This is like a unicorn situation. And of course, there was a bit of a scramble in the morning, but before service, the leaders had it figured out. We had more leaders offer to help than spots that we actually needed. I cannot express the overwhelming gratitude that I have for the dedication of our next generation team, not only towards our next generation, but to each other as a team. They are always there to support each other. They each have their own little age group, their little classroom thread that they can connect on. And if somebody can't come in for something, they post it. Somebody will easily come up and take their shifts. If somebody has issues, somebody comes along and they'll pray for them. We're always there for each other, and creating this community that connects to each other and helps each other strengthens the relationship that you all share with the children in your care. I'm talking directly to our next generation helpers. So how can we live this out as a church? A strong community for the future needs us to work together. And here are some ways that we can do that. Listen and learn. Take time to understand the needs and the perspectives of the young people in our church community. Ask them their dreams. Ask them what their challenges are. Create a safe space. Ensure that our church is a place where every child and youth can feel seen and heard and loved. When I first started this role, working in youth groups specifically, I had a lot of ideas. I had a lot of things that I wanted to do that I thought would be great for our group to do together. But without really knowing the groups that well yet, a lot of my thoughts and a lot of my ideas did not stick. And pretty soon it was made abundantly clear that our seniors were not feeling it at all. It was not for them. So I listened. We sat down, we discussed some of their visions, some of the things they enjoyed and didn't enjoy about the program. And now our seniors are invited to each of our planning meetings. Our senior highs are our high school students. And as value members of our youth program, they're encouraged to share their insights and their contributions. And giving the youth this freedom to share has emboldened them to share other insights and ideas that are pretty outside the box. So some of the things that we have done over the last, I would say, year and a half, these are my highlights. Human-sized Monopoly, where everyone dressed as a Monopoly character. It needed some tweaking, but it had a lot of potential, so that might come up again, who knows. The murder mystery sleepover, where their youth group leader was the CEO that was murdered. And they spent the rest of the night trying to figure out who murdered their youth group leader. It was interesting. It was definitely a bonding experience. And last June, we had a sleepover, and at our sleepover, I hope I don't get in trouble for sharing this, but at our sleepover, we had catapults that they created, and they launched squeaky pigs off of our loft into a giant Angry Bird type game that we made in the sanctuary. Yeah, it was fun. It was definitely fun. And recently, our youth had a fundraiser in December and raised money for 4 families that we were able to bless. We were actually only going to bless 3, but we raised so much money that we were able to bless another family. So we gave our youth the space to share these ideas, but myself and the other youth leaders, we can't take credit for those ideas. We just gave them the platform. And I will say that they've been my greatest resource so far. Their information and their past experience has made them valuable members of our planning teams. Some other ways that you can live out these values are you can commit to prayer. You can pray for our young children, pray for our youth regularly, lift them up before God, asking for wisdom and protection. And of course, you can help in our next generation ministries. I can't get away without making a plug. We're always looking for more leaders, helpers in our next generation ministries. So we have Sunday school on Sundays. We have a monthly kids club. When we have enough helpers, we make that happen. And we have our youth group program, which is also a lot of fun. When we focus on the next generation, we're not just helping individuals, but creating a lasting influence on families and communities. Think about how powerful it would be if every child and teen in our church grew up not only knowing and feeling God's love, but feeling the love and support of their whole church family. Imagine how they would share that love in their schools, in their jobs, and in their neighborhood.